Good morning, everyone, or good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for being here. It's me, Ari.com Rashid. I'm your anthropologist and sociologist. Please hit the like button, share this live stream, subscribe to the channel, become a member of the channel, and don't forget, donate in links below. Be generous, please. Thank you very much. But okay, apart from that, the live stream of today, I may make another live stream later on, maybe. But the topic for now is about a specific taboo that's often not addressed as a taboo. Okay? Now, I want you to hold on. First, let me check if you can all hear me clearly. Quite important. Let me check on my tablet. Hold on a minute. Okay. Hold on, guys. Okay. Hold on. So you guys should be able to hear me clearly. That's good. So let's address the following: cult exposure. What I mean is let me say it better: the exposing of cults. Okay. What you see here, I just type in cult leader arrested in Google, and is what I got. Okay. Zimbabwe police arrest cult leader, rescue 251 children. Okay, someone claimed to be a prophet. It was a child trafficking ring behind the scenes. Kenya cult leader charged with terrorism or starvation death. 429 people died, though some starvation that was going on. Here's another thing. The Cobb County jury seated in the rape trial of alleged polygamist cult leader Eligio Bishop. Oh, this guy used to call himself a nature boy or tree god or whatever. Oh my God. I'm quite surprised people haven't noticed years ago something was wrong with this guy. But anyway, another thing, cult leader arrest for allegedly trying to control followers with homemade mercury laced elixirs. What the hell? South Korean cult Grace Road church members arrest in Fiji. Cult leader William Kam and partner arrest in Sydney, that's Australia, over alleged child grooming. Cult leader in Murcia gave purified mercury followers. What the heck? Man, they're killing their followers here. I think this King cult leader charged with murder of 191 children. Whoa, child murder. Okay. So let's continue to see if there's other news coming out. But what I want to show is okay, Senor Aguila or other Socorro cult leaders arrested for alleged human rights abuses. Police video shows cult leader and partner arrest over alleged historical child grooming. Okay, here is another thing. Pedophile cult leaders shock arrest. I'm not going to go too far showing all of this. You also can type in cults and crime together, and you'll find out a lot of interesting articles, even books about, dangerous cults. Here's article from 2015 from CNN talking about cults in the 1970s because there were a lot of big cults arising in the 1970s. Also, if a guy with a swastika on him over here. Look, what I'm about to tell you may sound shocking, okay? As a matter of fact, a lot of things I told you guys here on this channel sound shocking. But I'm also going to give you an explanation when I'm saying something. That's what I also do. What I want you to understand is that the public out there, they're perfectly fine with cults being around. As long as cults enable them to escape in daily life. I mean it. People in general do not care at all how sick and twisted a belief system is. As long as that belief system enables them to be quote unquote left alone and be at ease and unbothered and unchallenged in daily life, they are okay with it. It's only when the financial ease disappears that a lot of people begin to complain. And then you have people suddenly coming out with their story, their testimony, or their experience with alleged cult leaders or alleged cults. Look, I want you to go back. I want you to consider the following. Okay? A guy arrested for alleged murder of 191 children. So there's a lot of children that were neglected. Where were the parents of those children? Where were the relatives of the children? What were the politicians doing? Where was the government? Where were the churches? Um, let's go back over here. Okay. Child grooming. Again, where were the parents? Where were the relatives? Where were those people? What I want you to realize is that anytime you have people being destroyed and harmed by these cults out there, and anytime this leads to arrests or cults being dismantled by the police, there's one thing you'll always notice is that it went on for a while. Yes, it went on for a while. So the question becomes, why now? I just mean it. Why now? But hey, when uh, alleged, we gotta say alleged because sometimes those just allegations based on nothing. But when an alleged cult leader is arrested or a cult is shut down by the police, people rejoice. What are they rejoicing about? They're rejoicing about the fact that they are quote unquote normal part of society. So they're part of society, getting along with societal norms, often without questioning anything. That alone is cultic, just getting along with things without examining why and you're getting along with them. So now, to validate their own collective escape in this thing called society, they now want people who are worse off than them, and they want such news to come out in their face to validate how good they are for following society. So it's quite weird when cults are exposed, or better, especially when the satanic cults are exposed. They smeared all over mainstream media. Oh, look at these people over here. They tried to start their own community, but they end up with a cult leader. Oh, look at these folks over here. They thought they could have financial independence, but they end up being scammed by some crypto scam. Anytime a cult, whether it's a satanic cult or just a common cult, is exposed, they put it all over the media. Why are they doing that? They're doing that so that the common public out there gains narcissistic supply and then being quote unquote normal. As if the collective of as if the majority of the public cannot be wrong. In the 1930s and 1940s in Europe, the, something bad happened. You guys know what I'm talking about. Was were the majority of the people right? No, they were not. The majority of the people got along with mass murder. Okay? And you can't say, oh, people didn't know Rashid. That some people were so naive they still didn't know because we're so mentally slow, I can get that. But the majority of the people were wake up every morning, going to their work, who had to engage in business. That all these people together, some even highly educated, were all unaware of the mass murders were going on in the 1930s and 1940s. Come on now, that's impossible. Okay, people got along with bloodshed in the 1930s, 1940s. Why? Because the bloodshed contribute to their daily relief. That's why. That's how simple it is. People will get along with bloodshed, whether it happens with children or other adults, or especially people who they deem unworthy. They'll get along with bloodshed as long as it validates their daily ease. That's the reality, and that's why there's a taboo on exposing cults. Now, a taboo is it's an informal prohibition that's enforced on the population. For example, it's taboo in the West to ask a woman her age, unless you're law enforcement or it has to do with her getting a service, whatever. But in general, you're not supposed to ask a woman her age. Now, it's not written in the law. Don't ask a woman her age, because how are they going to enforce that law? If 10,000 people ask a woman their age, how are you going to prove they ask a woman their age? You're going to arrest 10,000 people just ask a woman their age? Because what's wrong with knowing a woman's age? There's nothing wrong with that. So why is there a prohibition socially not to inquire about the woman's age? Because in the Western world, a lot of women are valued primarily on their sexual availability. And the assumption is the older a woman is, the more sexual experiences she has gone through, and the less attractive and valuable she's considered to be. So women who are younger, heading towards age 20, are considered more valuable than women in their 30s or 40s. It's a collective attitude in the West that women are often primarily valued based on their sexual availability. Now, this is an attitude in the population, okay? It's not an attitude you can 1, 2, 3 get out of the population. Something people have learned over decades or throughout generations. Until today, it's very much in practice. But it's also an embarrassing practice that goes on. But because there are a lot of financial interest in this practice of valuing women based on a sexual availability, people are not willing to tackle down that practice because it would expose too much dysfunction in the community. So people just say, don't ask women her age, it's rude or whatever. They cannot throw you in prison for doing that, but they can make life hard on you informally, calling you rude, name calling you, shunning you, shaming you. Same with, there's another taboo on asking a man about his salary. A salary is what someone is paid at the end of the month or sometimes the end of the week after they finish a job. Now, a big portion of the male population in the West depends on their paycheck at the end of the month. So they have to work throughout the month to get their paycheck. Okay? Now, that means a big majority of the men in the Western world have no financial leverage. So when it comes down to daily life, they don't have really much to say about what happens. So wanting to know a man's salary is a way to figure out how quote unquote important a man is. And because it's also common practice in the West, up until now, maybe it will change in the future, I don't know. Because it's still a common practice to value men primarily on what they can offer financially, it would stir up a lot of conflict when this becomes open. Because those same men that are objectified based on their finances are the same men who are needed to keep society functioning. So you don't want to upset the people that have to keep society functioning. So to prevent a lot of men in the West from noticing how unappreciated and how devalued they are, you don't tackle the subject of their finances. So a taboo is a prohibition collectively agreed upon to hide an embarrassing dysfunction or a toxic feature of the community. Again, there's a difference between community and society. Community are the people living somewhere or engaged with one another, often for practical reasons. Society is a movement of escapism that adults adhere to. Now, society and community, they seem similar, but they're not similar. Society is an escape movement collectively, in which the collective validates their escapes by all doing the same thing. And community is when people actually are living together in a specific location, or today also virtually, they engage with one another. So when there is an embarrassing dysfunction in a community, or when there is a toxic fact about the people that they don't want to have addressed because it will make a lot of people look bad, people come with prohibitions not to address it. Before I continue, is it clear what taboos are and why they exist? Let me know in the live chat. Is it clear why taboos exist? Why we make taboos, why we follow taboos, why we enforce taboos? Is that all clear onto you? Let me know in the live chat, please. Oh, by the way, if you're driving a car right now and listening to this live stream, please pay attention to the road, please. No traffic accidents under my watch. Thank you very much. Thank you. God is good. Understand this. Taboos would not exist if mankind, by default, acknowledged their vulnerability and fragility, therefore also became more sensitive and empathetic towards one another, and actually communicated in harmonious way. Because mankind in this fallen state seeks to escape and be left alone all the time, that's why you have so much dysfunction and violence in the world. That's why. So taboos are ways to cover up and deny the embarrassing dysfunctions and also the toxic features of the public. So I want to give an example. Let's say there's a lot of crime in a neighborhood. So let's say you go take any city in the United States, or maybe in, I don't know, maybe somewhere in Brazil, whatever. Just take any city, okay? And let's say there's a portion of the city, one or two neighborhoods, where there's a lot of crime, drug dealing, um, sexual assault is high, burglaries are high. There are a lot of brawls happening. So high crime, a lot of violence. Continuously, police officers have to go there to intervene. But okay, so those neighborhoods in that city are quite dangerous to be at. Hold on a minute. Those neighborhoods didn't just appear out of nowhere. Those neighborhoods were built several decades ago. People moved into those houses once they were built. People had children over there. People built families. And over time, those neighborhoods became dangerous like that. Question is, how come those neighborhoods are still dangerous? Why aren't people asking the question why the neighborhoods are dangerous to begin with? And then you notice that people in that neighborhood often make jokes about their parents beating them. They will say things as, well, the way children talk today to their parents, if I would have done that, I wouldn't have been alive today. And they will laugh. So they're actually hinting that their own parents were adults who had to look after them, were so mentally and emotionally unstable that they had children had to walk on eggshells not to turn them emotionally, or else they would have survived. That's not something funny to even make jokes about. But let's say you have some neighborhoods where a lot of people make child abuse jokes. The fact that they're making child abuse jokes about their own parents or about own relatives should warn you, hold on a minute. Why are they making jokes about them having to survive their parents' temper? Or why are they making jokes about being spanked and all of that? Little by little, you realize, hold on a minute. If these people, if these people normalize making child abuse jokes, that means that majority of them went to child abuse and they're coping with what happened to them by making jokes about it. That dark humor, as you call it, they have, it's a way for them to cope with being traumatized by the people who should look after them. And it becomes very clear eventually that the child abuse is a big contributor to the crime. Now, it's not an excuse for the crime, but it's an explanation. Those people are damaged and traumatized, so they'll end up damaging themselves and the environment with them. Simple as that. So, child abuse in this case is the taboo that people don't address. Because the moment you address child abuse, you have to realize that, hold on a minute, it's not just the criminals over here who are destroying the whole neighborhood. The people as a whole are sick in the head. They think it's okay to offload unrest on children. Or let's say now that there's sex trafficking going on, whether it's New York or San Francisco or Sydney, Australia, or London in the UK or Moscow in Russia, whatever. Let's say there's sex trafficking going on. Okay? And year after year, police has to do raids to rescue women, sometimes underage girls, from sex traffickers. But then at the same time, you're noticing that the divorce rate is quite high. So you have an increase in divorce rate in those cities, and you have a chronic issue of sex trafficking. And if you look closer, you realize that, long minute, those brothels where the sex trafficking was taking place are very close to office buildings, churches, and those social institutions. It's not like those brothels are somewhere on the highway or freeway far removed in the desert or far removed in some rainforest. No, those brothels where you had those trafficked women being exploited are right there in the city centers where people go to the mall, where people go to work, where people go to church, where people have their social life. So the question becomes, how come the sex trafficking is so chronic over here? And at the same time, urban life continues like nothing's going on. The only way that is possible is if collectively the people agreed not to address the sex trafficking. And sex trafficking can only work if there are customers coming to those brothels. If there are no customers coming to those brothels, sex trafficking would be useless. Same with the illegal drug trade. Okay, those Mexican drug cartels wouldn't be able to even function if there was no demand for drugs. If, for example, when it comes to the quote unquote war on drugs, as they call the United States, they built extra prisons, they trained extra police officers, they even involved the CIA and the military, they involved politics, all to attack drug dealers and drug cartels. My question, drug cartels and drug dealers, they have a product whether it's recreational drugs, whether it's cocaine, heroin, speed, or whatever, or LSD, whatever they have out there. Question, if people don't want their product, would they be able to make money off of it? No, they wouldn't. So the question has to be, why is there such a high demand for these drugs to begin with? If there was no high demand for drugs, the drug cartels and the drug dealers wouldn't be able to make any money. And they would all go bankrupt and they all have to look for another job. Simple as that. But people are so invested in either in catching and arresting drug dealers. In some countries, even promote killing drug dealers. That goes quite far. They're into building extra prisons to lock people into. They are all okay with having extra police officers to patrol the streets. They're willing to do all this aggression and counter violence. But the one thing they don't ask is, why do we have such a demand for drugs to begin with? Same with those brothels, red light districts. Why is there such a high demand for prostitution to begin with? So those questions themselves are taboo. You're not supposed to ask those questions. Why not? Because the moment you ask, why is there a high demand for drugs to begin with? That question already admits the root of the problem. There's a high demand for drugs. Without that high demand for drugs, there wouldn't be any illegal drug trade, there wouldn't be any drug cartels, there wouldn't be any drug dealers. This is not to excuse the drug cartels and the drug dealers because they're wrong. Nevertheless, they wouldn't be able to become drug dealers nor form drug cartels if there were not this high demand for drugs. So the moment you ask the question, why is there a high demand for drugs to begin with? You realize that, wait a minute, so the high demand for drugs is the problem. So then when you look at the problem, you have to think, okay, why are people taking drugs to begin with? Knowing it's not that good for their health. They do it to escape. Okay, escaping what? Well, here it comes. It's not those junkies on the street who are the main consumers of recreational drugs, because drugs are not cheap. It's so for the fact there's a high demand for drugs, that means that the people using drugs have the financial means to purchase the drugs. So that means that the people who are using the drugs are either people with jobs or they're people in higher financial ranks. Simple as that. So you come to the conclusion, not the homeless people on the street who are consuming all the drugs. It's a lot of the common people out there who are coping with daily life. Then it also doesn't mean if they're taking drugs to cope with daily life, that means daily life doesn't function well. That means our communities don't function well. That means that we are fucking up, we are failing. That means we collectively have to improve, and then people are able to deal with their psychological issues in a better way. And the healthier the communities become, the less urge there is to cope through addictions. Because the drug addiction of a lot of people just a way to cope with unprocessed trauma or unprocessed neglect. Okay, so the better our communities become, the less coping it will be. The less coping, that means less addictions. Less addiction means less drugs on the streets, less drug dealers, less drug cartels. So treating the drug cartels and the drug dealers as the main problem is itself a distraction facing the actual problem, which is the neglect of the community. Simple as that. But because people don't want to admit the neglect of the community, they want to focus on the symptom. The drug cartels and the drug dealers out there are a symptom that shows that it's public neglect. So what do people want to do? They wanna um, they want a distraction so they don't have to look at themselves. So if politicians come up with policies to build more prisons, say go for it, build more prisons, lock these people up, they're destroying our communities. Arrest those drug dealers, or if you have drug addicts dying of overdose, say, well, good riddance, they would say, then the problem's over. People um, develop narcissistic and psychopathic attitudes in life because they just want to be left alone and not face the fact that they are failing as a community and as individuals. And eventually, this will lead to bitterness, collective bitterness. Because building a lot of prisons is not going to solve the problem of drugs on the streets. You're going to have more people in prison, you're going to have more convicts, you're going to have higher costs for the government. But it doesn't, you're going to have more broken families also because people are going into prison for years. But you're not going to solve anything. So when they come with the tolerance policies on crime and it doesn't work, or brings forth other issues, people now become bitter because eventually they have no choice what it means. We're the ones failing. We're the ones that are narcissistic. We're the ones that are selfish, and we're the ones escaping all the time. So because people don't want to admit that and and face the backlash on themselves, they now become bitter against anyone who comes close to the truth. And it's when people develop this collective bitterness that cults become popular. Again, I'm not saying that everyone who ended up in a cult and was abused by a cult was there because of their own bitterness that they developed. I'm not saying that. Absolutely not. What we need to understand is cults become popular and cults even increase, cults even prosper when people have developed collective bitterness. Whether it's collective bitterness concerning the drug problem, whether it's collective bitterness concerning the sex trafficking, whether it's a collective bitterness concerning the homeless people or concerning, I don't know, the financial recession, whenever the symptoms of the public neglect become undeniable in people's faces, you will have an increase in bitterness in the community. And once this bitterness is all high, people will begin to lose their minds more and more. And it's when people begin to lose their minds more and more that people become desperate for answers. But the answers they're looking for aren't actually answers that will benefit them in having a solution. They want answers in the sense that they want to hear things, explanations will make them feel better. So when you see in communities or in society that a lot of people are looking for quote unquote answers, are they really looking for answers? Or are they looking for answers to make them feel better, or answers to excuse them, or answers to exonerate them from blame? Often, when you have this increase in cults or this booming of cults, cults obtain a lot of members, you also have a lot of people saying they want answers. Now, there's nothing wrong with someone having an awakening and they're looking for answers for life. Nothing wrong with that. But often people don't really want answers because they didn't really want to face the fact that it's us, the human species, we're fucked up. They either want to put it all on evil spirits or on Satan. Oh, and a lot of churches doing that. Oh, it's Satan this, Satan that. They talk about Satan more than talk about Christ Jesus. They talk more about demons than talk about the finished work of Christ. Or then you have churches saying, well, you just have to do your best, then everything will be fine with you, denying the fact that as a human being, you're a community creature, and you still are affected by the community around you. And then there are people becoming spooky, doing things like the law of attraction, law of assumption. They use spiritual facts as a distraction to go into some spooky escapism. Some even go so far to say everything that happened to you in your life, you brought on yourself. They even go so far. If you were molested as a 2-year old, whatever, if that happened to you, you brought on yourself by your own imagination. What? And people got along with things like this. Hold on. One moment. I know. So understand the following here. When it comes to cults, cults are also the symptom that the population is not dealing with reality the proper way. Either the cults are there to provide an excuse for public neglect, or the cults are there to, as daycare centers, to deal with the damaged adults that would otherwise go amok in the community. Because those damaged adults that have been damaged by the people, by the public, as children, they couldn't do much harm. Because when children are damaged, you can't do much harm. But if those damaged children become damaged adults, now you have a problem. And if you have a lot of damaged adults out there, Lord have mercy. if a lot of these damaged adults begin to lose their mind, what can you do? So sometimes cults are there to kind of absorb the damaged adults of a community. And by doing that, those damaged adults are all in specific locations. And because of that, it decreases the probability of those damaged adults bringing the whole community down. So cults are the symptom that the public is not realistic. Simple as that. All right. So let's say now you have a lot of neglected children who've also been molested. Yes, you have a lot of molested, neglected children in the community. And the community failed in catching the perpetrators and providing therapy for those children. Now, let's say you have tens of thousands of those damaged children who are now damaged adults. They all develop addictions and anger issues as a result. They're not bad people, but they all develop toxic issues now. What are you going to do with tens of thousands of adults with toxic issues that are deep rooted? And the only way for therapy to work is if in therapy it's admitted they were neglected by the community. So for those tens of thousands of adults to recover, the neglect they went through has to be acknowledged. And the public has to take responsibility in building a better social climate overall. But are people willing to take responsibility? Likely not. People want to escape. So because of that, those tens of thousands of damaged adults are likely never to recover. And a lot of those tens of thousands of damaged adults, they have important jobs. Like some of them may be nurses, some of them may be lawyers, some of them may be daycare workers, some of them may be masons in the street, or they may be school teachers. So you have tens of thousands of damaged adults who have important roles to fulfill in daily life. So you don't want them all to, die off out of the blue, because then you have a big hole in daily life that can't be filled. You have a big deficit now. You also don't want those tens of thousands of damaged adults to crash down mentally in mass, because that would expose the community also. There's so many people breaking down mentally. You don't want those damaged people to realize how they've been neglected and not going to take it out in the community either. So if you have tens of thousands of damaged adults whose damage are deep rooted in childhood neglect done by the community itself, how can that same community demand them to be of quality if the community was never quality towards them? Again, because the public does want to admit their fallen state, recovery is unlikely to happen. But what are you going to do with all those damaged adults? You need to contain them. And that's where cults come in. Let's say you have this cult claiming that Jesus Christ already returned. You have this Korean guy claiming to be the second coming of Christ. Really? And then you have people believing that this man is second coming of Christ. You think to yourself, hold on a minute. Didn't Jesus told us there would be signs when he comes back? He comes as a thief. And if this guy is Christ Jesus, how come the dead aren't raised? How come the world system is still going on? So anyone looking at the situation can clearly see this guy is not second coming of Christ. It's just some lunatic who thinks he can get away exploiting other people. Okay? But if you have damaged adults, those damaged adults, they likely know this guy is not the second coming of Jesus Christ. They know that very well. So why are they following this guy? Because this guy gives them recognition they never got. Maybe you have a woman who was never told by people around her that she mattered. Okay? So she is in and out of sexual relationships. Every boyfriend she's with, it doesn't work out. Sexual disappointment after sexual disappointment. And now she has this Korean guy claiming to be the second coming of Jesus Christ, talking about you matter as a woman. The people should consider you. You matter, whatever. And her hearing this guy on the internet saying that she matters. Now, the guy just talking in general, but because she's looking at it, she feels like the guy's talking to her, and she feels now she gets the psychological affection she should have gotten when she was growing up. So now she feels alive because someone is admitting that she's valuable. So even though she knows this Korean guy is just a lunatic who thinks he can exploit other people, he's not the second coming of Jesus Christ. Even though she knows that consciously, unconsciously, emotionally, she kind of hopes it's true because for the first time in her life, she gets the psychological nurturing she should have gotten long time ago. And now she also has realized that, hold on a minute, how come it's a stranger on the internet across the continent or across the ocean who's making me feel better about myself? That means that the people around me failed. That means my parents failed, my ex-boyfriends failed, my friends in high school failed. That means the people around me failed. How come so many people around me are failing all the time? Eventually, you'll have to admit it's not that these people don't know any better or they can't help themselves. They know better, they're just neglectful. They have been wasteful towards me. And because it's too painful for her to admit that people have been wasteful towards her, she emotionally clings onto the teachings of this fake Jesus. And that's how she enrolls into this cult. Now, eventually, she's brainwashed and she can't think clearly, and now she needs to be rescued. But how did she end up in that cult to begin with? Because she was neglected by the public, and this one guy there gave her what she needed all along, and that made her realize how neglected she was. And because it was too painful for her to admit this, she got hooked onto the emotional high of this teaching, and she ended up in the cult. Same happens with men. What if you have a guy who has been treated harshly throughout his life by his dad, his mom, by his employers in the past, by teaching in high school, and for once, someone tells him, listen, dude, you are a man, but just because you're a man doesn't mean your emotional well being doesn't matter. You shouldn't just man up and take it all the time. It's time for you to work on your emotional well being too. And the guy thinks, oh my God. He begins to cry. Why does he begin to cry? Because it's for the first time in his life, someone openly tells him, listen, your emotional being matters. Just because you're a man doesn't mean you have to take it all the time. Do you think this guy is going to care that the individual telling him this is messed up? He couldn't care less than the individual telling me it's messed up. If this messed up individual could tell me the facts that I needed, that means the people that I had around me all the time withheld these facts from me and they were perfectly fine taking advantage of me. So, cults often can also be the container to prevent damaged adults from turning on the communities that damaged them. Okay, so let's say you have a cult out there of this Korean Jesus over there, and there are so many people following it. All those people following it have been damaged somewhere. Somewhere they have been damaged by their communities, and somewhere, well, when they were adults, people exploited them being damaged. So they were damaged adults that were taken advantage of by the people around them. So they were damaged, likely as children, maybe it's later in the teen years, but they were damaged where they couldn't help themselves, and other people took advantage of them being damaged, which is quite horrible. And because the public does not want this to come out, they don't want to go through all this escalation. People are perfectly fine with this Korean Jesus having this weird cult over there. So let's say now you begin to call out this Korean Jesus cult. People may turn on you. And I'm not talking about the cult members turning on you. The cult members may ignore you. But sometimes the outsiders, common society out there may turn on you, telling you, mind your own business. If it makes people happy to be part of that cult, let them be happy. Who are you to judge people? It's none of your business. Society will likely turn on you when you expose that Korean Jesus cult. Why? Because that cult is containing the people they've damaged. That cult prevents those people from realizing how damaged they were. Because once you have all these people realize how damaged you were by their own folks, a lot of them will turn on their own folks, and it's not going to be enough police officers and mental health workers to deal with that crisis. Okay? So there is a taboo in exposing cults. The only time it's okay in the Western world to expose cults is when the cults have gone way too far and the public's neglect and allowing them to go too far is being exposed. Only then it will be okay to expose cults. Apart from that, as long as the cults are either providing an excuse to the masses or they're containing the damaged adults, people are perfectly fine with them, no matter how sick those cults are. And one thing you need to understand, for a damaged adult who's in a cult, they don't care how ridiculous and stupid the beliefs are. The fact is, there's community care over there that it shouldn't gotten, that should be the norm. That community care they get within that cult should be the norm everywhere in the human species. But the fact this community care does not exist as the norm every human species, that's why they'll rather stick with that cult that at least looks after them than to go to mainstream society where they are a nobody and just a number that's replaced. Why would you want to go back to society where you're just a number that can be replaced? And people easily, while you're part of a group now that has community care. Even if the group is toxic, you need community care as a human being. So, okay, staying in the cult is a bad decision, but leave the cult can be even worse because so a lot of those cult members say they stay because a it's easier and cheaper to stay than for them to admit how much they were damaged by mainstream society and that mainstream society is not going to change. So why should they go back to mainstream society if mainstream society who damaged them is not going to change? That means they're going to be damaged again and again. So that's not a proper foresight for them. Okay. So again, there's a taboo on exposing cults. So understand the following: anytime you see a cult leader or cult members being arrested by the police, it's when the cult went too far in exploiting people. And when the cults have gone too far, them going too far will both show that the community damaged their own people and will also reveal that the community is okay with their victims being finished off by the cults. And because this cruelty is too much to bear for a lot of people, that's why when a cult goes too far, the prosecutors, the judges, and the police go on it immediately. Because realize they cannot heal and recover all these damaged adults. So the public or society cannot heal nor recover those damaged adults. All these damaged adults need to serve their father to be recovered. And a lot of them will not serve their father. They will continue escaping. So guess what? Even though they as an adult are responsible for looking for solutions, what if they decide not to look for solutions? You can't put all the blame on them. If a damaged adult who's been damaged by the community begins to escape instead of looking for solutions, yes, as an adult, they're in the wrong for not looking for solutions, but hey, who damaged them to begin with? We did. Oh, so why are you complaining now that they're doing the same thing you guys did? You guys were escaping, and your escapism damaged them. So now they're escaping too. So you guys were escaping. But now that they are escaping, it's a problem. But there was no problem when you guys were escaping, damaging them. Okay? So understand this. People in general don't give a damn how sick and twisted a cult is, as long as it contains the damaged adults that would otherwise lose their mind and embarrass the whole community. People are perfectly fine with it being there. They'll even protect those cults, even finance those cults, just so they can be left alone in daily life. I'm telling you. Let's say you have those weird sex cults out there, those romantic cults, and you have a lot of women following those cults. All these women falling for these romantic cults out there, they would otherwise go around the community causing problems with their mental breakdowns. And because they likely don't have an off switch once they begin to offload mentally, it's going to be too much for people to bear. Women all over the damaged women all over the place, causing embarrassment and harm to the community. So people are fine with these damaged women being part of those romantic cults. Simple as that. Simple as that. It's only when cults go too far that the police and the judge will intervene, because it will expose the community too much. And here's another thing also about cults. Not everyone that joins cults are damaged adults, in the sense that they were severely damaged by the community. Some people just join cults because they just want to be left alone. They want an excuse. They'll get along with damaged people being groomed and damaged people being taken advantage of, up until they're the ones being damaged now. And now suddenly they leave the cult and say, I have a testimony. Watch out for that pastor. Watch out for that church. Watch out for that. They suddenly have these testimonies about, oh, I left this cult. Oh, it was horrible. Yeah, but you stayed there for years. Why did you stay there for years in it? Because there was some benefit for you, likely a sexual or a financial benefit, or both. But now that the benefits are backfiring on you, or the benefits are running dry, suddenly, oh, you realize you're in a cult. You knew it all along that there was something amiss with what you were part of, but you just didn't want to admit it. So again, not everyone that ends up in cults are damaged adults. Okay? You also have adults who are just damaging because they just want to escape. They're just neglectful. And those type of cult members, when they cannot get away with their with themselves enabling violence, when they can't get away with exploitation, and exploitation turns on them, suddenly they become the holy victims that are on a crusade against cults. So beware of a lot of these quote unquote testimonies of former cult members, because not all these people are sincere and innocent. I'm telling you. Overall, it comes down to fallen mankind insists on escaping all the time. That's a problem. All right. But okay. Are there any questions about this topic? Please let me know in the live chat now. Let me know in the live chat. Are there any questions about this topic? You can ask them right now. It's warm weather, so I'm about to go outside. It's beautiful weather on this Saturday. But I thought, hey, before I go enjoy the weather, let me just make this live stream for you guys over here. If you have a question, you can ask the question. Well, let the question relate to the topic, please. Thank you very much. I'll wait for 1 more minute to see the questions come in. If no questions come in, I'll close down the live stream. Okay, I'll wait for 30 seconds more. Okay, while I wait for the last 30 seconds, um, remember to like this live stream, share this live stream, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet, become a member of the channel, and also don't forget to donate the links below if you're able to. Pay your bills, be financially responsible, and anytime you have something left, feel free to show appreciation by donating in the links below. Okay, I want you all to be financially responsible and financially prosperous. So don't get your paycheck and dump all your paycheck in the links below. Be financially responsible, pay your bills, invest in yourself. When you have something left, or you're willing to donate a big portion, you're free to do so. It's very much appreciated. And also feel free to show some love by purchasing some of my novels on Amazon. Thank you very much. I recommend this story, Letters to St. Louis, but I have more of them, so you can check them out. And there's another story you can purchase also. Feel free to do so. Nadine, I read the whole live stream answered your question, so please replay it. Thank you very much. Anyone here who can help Sheena Page? Okay. So, all right. So I'm going to decree and declare for Sheena for that $40 overdraft to be filled. Is that much? I have to wait for my next payment for now, just so you all know. I'm being open about it. I have to wait for my next payments. Yes, for those who are not aware of it, I work too. Even though it's part-time, I work. So I'm not on my lazy ass begging for donations. I'm working too. I'm paying taxes. I'm paying rent. I'm paying bills. And I'm moving forward. Okay? So you be financially responsible too. And then, in your financial responsibility, show some appreciation in the donation links, please. Thank you very much. God is good. And again, one last warning. And I said it in my live stream yesterday also, which has over 900 views, I believe already. Wow, within just less than 24 hours. When people dedicate themselves to toxicity, when people are becoming spiritually filthy, leave them alone. When people are becoming spiritually filthy, that means when they indulge and continue and dedicate themselves to toxicity, I'm telling you, don't fight them, don't argue with them, don't confront them, walk away from them, leave them alone. They're dangerous. Unlink from them when they become spiritually filthy. Unlink from them. All right? You'll pay dearly for it if you don't unlink from spiritually filthy people, I'm telling you. Anyway, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ, I command everyone who's watching this live stream, you receive the message grows in you, and it brings forth fruit to glorify the Heavenly Father. I decree and declare financial prosperity, mental health, physical well-being, and safety from danger and immunity from violence on everyone watching this live stream. Be blessed. Thanks for being here. Keep being with Christ. Enjoy the Shabbat, and I'll see you next live stream. Shalom.